Welcome to the Raw and Real of Real Estate podcast, powered by LPT Realty, Real Estate Reimagined, with your host, the one and only Betsy Tinnervin. On this podcast, we bring you people who share their personal journeys in life, business, and of course, real estate. Get motivated, inspired, and priceless information from entrepreneurs, community leaders, and realtors who are thriving. Now let's get raw and real. Here's Betsy.
Welcome back to the LPT All-Star Radio Show. I am your host, Betsy Tinnervin, and as always, we are powered by LPT Realty. I want to give a shout out to Robert Palmer and the executive team for making this show possible. And today, as always, we want to thank our religious listeners that come in every single weekend. Here we are in the Sunshine State. I hope everyone is out enjoying their Sunday. And today we are going to bring you the raw and real of life, business, and of course, real estate. We have a special guest in the studio today. And honestly, I always say that there's certain shows that make me excited or happy, but I literally have decades upon decades of real estate experience in the show as well. It's very rare that I get two agents together that have this much experience. We have established they both could pretty much be my dad, which got a little scary on the break before the show, but they have literally been in the industry for 20 plus years apiece, and I'm happy to introduce them. Today, we're going to be talking about that, just credit in general, what makes you credible in our industry and life, and that credit's pretty much your foundation personally and professionally in life, business, and of course, real estate. So without further ado, I have Mr. Rich Gant in the studio. He is actually a popular request. He was on the show, I think, when I had no idea what I was doing. So I'm happy to replay that one for you, which was almost about a year ago. But he's an LPT agent. He has over 23 years experience in the industry, and he works the entire Tampa Bay area. So how you doing, Mr. Rich?
I'm doing great, Betsy. Appreciate you having me on.
I'm excited to have you back. I was so excited when you picked to be on my show. I love that. And then I have a new face that I have not had on the show before, but I just got to know him 5 minutes before the show, and he is definitely the life of the party. Mr. Carl Gresson. He's been in the industry over 24 years. He's from the Pinellas area. And again, of course, he is one of the all-star LPT agents. So how are you doing, Carl?
I'm doing great, and good morning.
And then our guest of the day actually does credit repair and credit restoration. He helps customers in the real estate industry by getting them ready to buy that first home, or maybe they're in a situation where they're going to sell a home and they've had issues with credit. He actually helps them restore and rebuild their credit, has a 90-day money-back program guarantee, and then he also has things for businesses. So if you're a business owner and you're looking for business funding and you want to fix your credit, get some business credit, he can help you with that as well. So I have Xavier Marrero with Relentless Credit Builders in the house today. How are you?
I'm doing great, Bessie. How about you?
I'm doing okay. I think today's show is going to be awesome, and we're going to drop some major value for anyone out there. Whether you're an agent, you're in the real estate industry, or you're strictly just an entrepreneur, you're not going to want to miss today's show. If you do miss any segments of today's show, please visit the LPT All-Star Facebook page, where there's YouTube links to every single show that we've ever done. And if you are doing laundry, pop in those earbuds, and don't forget to download the iHeartRadio app. So, Mr. Rich, I'm coming to you first.
All right.
And I just want to know, what is your definition of being credible?
That's knowing what you're doing and then actually working for the client as though you were engaged in the transaction yourself.
I love that. That's a really great definition. The definition with Wikipedia is actually interesting. It's the able to be believed. And so when you think about that big picture, a lot of that has to do with real estate. Like, Carl, what do you think about that?
Well, there's no question about that. And at the end of the day, we just have to, be honest with everyone and tell them. I tell all of our clients, we're going to tell you the good, the bad, the ugly, because there's no sense sugarcoating anything. And I think that's really an essence of it too. They have to know that you're going to be honest with them and you are looking out for their best interests at the same time.
I think having tough questions is difficult in our industry because I think a lot of people, and just being a realtor, I mean, you guys know you have a lot of experience in the industry, and I'm sure that you cringe with the factor that now you can get a real estate license on Groupon and not have experience and write these contracts, right? So just coming for your experience, Rich, like what does it mean to have a real estate license, and how can you be credible in the industry?
Well, unfortunately, the entry bar is too low, but to have guys like Carl and my fellow LPT agents, there's a vast difference between simply being an agent and truly taking the realtor creed for the truth that should be there, that we treat everyone as we ourselves would want to be treated, kind of undergirds the whole 19 sections of code. And it's pretty simple if you think of it in those terms.
And Carl, we hold a license, right, with the Department of Business and Regulation. So just speak kind of on that and just like what it means to like have a real estate license and why you have to be credible in our industry.
Well, it is a big deal, and there are times, there's no doubt, because people hear the horror stories, and I tell people quite frequently, actually, hey, I'm licensed, I couldn't do this if, we don't want to jeopardize the license and that sort of thing. So anyway, it's a big deal, but we got to go through our CE every couple of years. A lot of people don't realize that. Now, I was a new agent at one time too, but I was in my trainer's office, I bet you 2-3 times a week, asking questions and things. And that's the thing, unfortunately, new agents don't really have today. They're trying to do this part-time or out of their house. They don't have all that support. So the newer agents come in, I think, actually have a little bit more difficult time getting up to speed than I had 24 years ago.
And you also have more gray hairs now.
I do.
I love that.
All from the kids, though, by the way.
I believe it. And a couple real estate transactions. So I'm actually going to turn to Xavier Marrero, and Rich and Carl, we're kind of drilling him downstairs before the show. So we're definitely going to drill him on the show. Everybody hears credit repair and they're like, okay, great. You pay this stuff. Lexington law has really ruined the reputation, because they have you pay these monthly fees, and we have these people that if you're trying to fix your credit, your capital may not be large. You may not have unlimited funds in your bank account. You're trying to get to that place. So what makes you different? And just tell me a little bit about Relentless Credit Builders.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of want to piggyback over everything you guys kind of spoke about, because, when it comes to being credible, first thing to me is being transparent, right? Just being able to show the customer exactly what situation they're in and helping that customer understand their situation, and then providing the correct solutions, right? A lot of times credit repair individuals get a bad name because they're worrying about how much money they can make off of that client versus providing them the correct solution and giving them the fast turnaround rate. That's why a lot of companies like the one that you just mentioned do monthly subscription, because they're going to prolong the process. They know for a fact they're going to be able to help the customer because we are using the Fair Credit Reporting Act of 1971. But what they're going to do is they're going to prolong it. So what I like to do is just basically show people my track record, show people how many individuals I help nationwide, over thousands, and just let them know, hey, we got them fast results. And then the biggest thing is giving them a peace of mind, that 90-day money back guarantee.
And I also think it's crazy because I know that you just taught a class, and there was a situation where someone had 131 inquiries on their report and you guys got it removed.
Yeah, so it was actually a total of 144, and we was able to get those removed within 30 days.
I love that. And I think that anyone out there listening that thinks that you couldn't buy a home or you can't fix your credit, there's 3 people on the show today that can help you do that. And so it is the mindset of believing that you can. And I think right now, Carl, in this market, people are seeing the high interest rates. Maybe they have a credit issue, their rent has gone up, all these different situations, but that we can formulate a plan for them to get them from A to B. And I like to say, it's not if you're going to get pre-approved, it's when. You want to comment on that?
Well, I agree with you. And you have mentioned the interest rates are high. I'm one of the old guys here in the room, and I remember anything under 8 was good, under 6 was great, and now we've all just been spoiled. So I don't even look at it as being high, but I get it. Everybody's in different brackets now and that sort of thing. So, but it is something to look at. There's a lot of ways to compensate that, get those rates down. Assumables are going to be a big deal. We'll probably talk more about that a little bit later in the show, but there are some interesting things when you look at assumables, and those are going to be a big deal probably in the next few months again, too.
I love that. And if anyone out there is interested, we are doing a special on today's show. If you are an LPT agent listening and you want to work with Xavier for credit repair, or you have a special client, there's a promo for today. If they want to get started, they can text the word credit to 813-610-9296, and we'll repeat that throughout the show. And Rich, also just kind of like with the whole being credible situation, I think it's amazing the resources that we've all created in our open ecosystem, being able to consistently have vendors on this show that help all of us do our business better, and just talk about the experts that you like to surround you with to help your clients get from A to B.
Well, probably the primary one is to have a good lender. I actually beat out 4 cash buyers last year by being able to assure them for 8.5 years my lender has never failed to qualify someone based on credit if they were already pre-approved. So again, that's the kind of credibility you need to bring, and you need to have that kind of discussion with the listing agent if you're carrying a buyer.
And if somebody wants to get a hold of one of your buyer magazines with strategies of how they can get a lower interest rate in today's market, what number should they text you at?
Text me at 813-502-9360.
And if you're a seller looking to sell your home and you want a copy of Carl's active marketing plan, a beautiful magazine with his lovely face on it. I think he does have his picture from like 1996 that he still uses, but he can drop that magazine off to you and tell you how you can get top dollar for your home in this market. Carl, what is a good number they can text you at?
First of all, it was 1995, but that's okay. Yes, you can text me anytime. Hopefully I still have them. They're going quick, but it's 727-35-RADIO.
And also, Xavier Marrero, if someone's interested in credit repair or restoration, how can they reach you?
Yes, go ahead and text credit to 813-610-9296.
Happy to be with you guys today. And again, segment 2, we're going to talk about your credit resume, how that impacts you personally, professionally, and in real estate. Not going to want to miss segment 2. Download the iHeartRadio app. We're going to pay some bills, take a break, and we'll see you after the break.
The best comp plans ever in stock and revenue share, but if we're not closing real estate transactions, all of that is worthless, because ultimately everything starts with a real estate transaction, which starts with a consumer. And so we wanted to arm our agents with the absolute best technology and best marketing tools to do more real estate. And that's, again, I think a big differentiator. I think very few brokerages really sit down and say, how do we provide tools to make sure that our agents can be more productive, sell more real estate, win more listings, win at more listing appointments, help more buyers find that home, and we're very focused on that. And so while we have the best comp plans and the best ways for agents to generate wealth and earn, we also have the best tools, and more importantly, I would say have the best tools to help you be successful in real estate.
Welcome back to the LPT All-Star Radio Show. I am your host, Betsy Tinervin. Happy to be here with you guys. Of course, as always, we are powered by the one and only LPT Realty, which, by the way, is still the fastest growing brokerage in the country. I believe we have surpassed 4,000 agents. We have done $500 million of transactions this month, and we are literally just a baby. We were just birthed a year ago. So it's so exciting to see that every agent gets $11,000 in marketing material, and we truly are a real estate first brokerage. I have two amazing people here today, Rich Gant, Carl Gresson. They both have 20 plus years of experience in this industry, and they're both with LPT. So if they're with LPT and that doesn't say anything to you other agents out there listening, after they have probably been through multiple brokerages, they have now planted their feet with LPT and are both just absolutely thriving. Xavier Marrero is our special guest today. And let me correct that, Xavier Marrero. It kind of slurs together. He is with Relentless Credit Builder, and he is here to help you build your credit, restore your credit. And of course, then you can call Carl or Rich if you are looking to purchase any real estate. Segment 2, we're going to talk about your credit resume. So I think in life and business, it is so impactful what your resume looks like. And I tell everyone what you do on social media, how you portray yourself, the things you write down, your accomplishment, it really shows who you are. So we're going to discuss how your credit resume impacts you professionally, personally, and in the real estate game. So Xavier, why don't you start with just what is a credit resume?
Well, the credit resume is basically going to be your credit report, right? We basically tell people if you went to apply for a new job, you're going to put all your accomplishments on your resume, but you never put down that you've been late to that previous job, right? So when it comes to your credit report, that's exactly what it's showing that lender or that creditor. Is this person trustworthy? Are they responsible? Are they living within their means or outside their means? And can we trust them with a certain dollar amount? So we tell people all the time, you definitely don't want to see a late payment on that credit report.
And also, just when it comes to that, I think like people get discouraged, right? If they have late payments or they have those things. So why is it important to have a conversation with you, you know, prior to like making any decisions about what to pay off or what to do?
Yeah, just so that way you understand your rights. You know, you just understand that at the end of the day, depending what situation you might be in, a charge off of collections, a late payment, the Fair Credit Reporting Act can definitely go ahead and protect you and get those negative items removed, because they are going to cost you a lot of money long term.
And one of those stories that I love that you told in a class was about the lady with the eviction. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I had a client that reached out to me, say, hey, I seen you on social media. I seen that you've been helping a lot of people. Can we meet? I actually took an hour drive because she was catching a bus. Her situation was she lost her job during the COVID. So obviously she couldn't afford her apartment, got evicted, moved in with the in-law, which was her son-in-law, and basically was treated like crap. He didn't want her there. So her life just became miserable. Spoke to her, I helped her out, got her started, and was able to remove the eviction within 30 days. By this time, she already had a job, so I got her with a realtor, and within 30 days, she became a homeowner at the age of 62 for the first time ever.
She was 62 years old.
62 years old.
We love that story. So I think it's really important in the real estate game. Carl, I heard you making a joke that you work with cash buyers only, but I know it's not true. But in the real estate game, when we're looking at someone's credit resume, they fail to understand it's not just about getting pre-approved for the home, but it affects your car insurance, it affects your homeowner's insurance. So taking the time to raise that score up is important. But how does it affect someone when it comes to real estate?
Well, you're right. It actually does affect all those things, and they don't realize that, and that's why people even pay different insurances and things like that. But of course, it affects it. Obviously, we pass this off to the lenders who will run all their scenarios and that sort of thing. But people, when I talk to them initially, I can pretty much tell if they're going to be okay or not. But I don't know their debts, for example. So they can say, "Oh, I got this great score," but if they got debts like crazy, sometimes it doesn't quite work either. And we do run into that, even though they appear pretty solid. So obviously, we do our due diligence up front, but again, they don't give me their financials, none of that sort of thing. But we're pretty good doing this as long as we have to guide people. And I tell folks all the time, if you're even thinking 3 months, 6 months down the road, let's still get you to a lender now, because there might be something there you don't know or didn't remember, and we can get that cleaned up before you're actually ready.
And I think you brought up a really good point, because I want to clarify this as well. When we were doing our first time homebuyer class, we had Xavier working direct with the lender. So if someone said, hey, I need credit repair, there were times where he would call the lender directly and say, hey, I'm not going to sign this person up for credit repair because I have a 730 FICO. They thought they needed a medical bill removed and they did not. So it is important to speak with a credit repair specialist that works hand in hand with a lender, whether it's Carl's lender or Rich's lender. It's important that those two communicate, because we certainly don't want to have someone enroll themselves in a program. So when you work with an outside program like Nation companies like Lexington Law, they are not communicating with your lender. They're not communicating with your realtor. So if you're interested in going through a process like this, reaching out to Rich or Carl, reaching out to Xavier, then including the lender in the process, that's really how this should work. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rich.
I think that's absolutely true. And I appreciate having someone like Xavier on the program. I think there are too many people who automatically disqualify themselves just in their heads, and they need to at least ask the questions to the right people.
For sure. And I think too, with that being said, it's just like having that communication with the lender and that person, because the lenders sometimes also, which I'm sure you guys have been through this way more than me, they disqualify people. And they don't want the clients that they have to put in the work. So when you involve someone like Xavier, he can come in, and if you guys, the realtors, say to the lender, hey, why isn't this person able to get pre-approved? Oh, I don't really know, We'll have that client get whatever report was run, take that report to someone like Xavier and go, well, what do I need to do? How can I get this done? I think that's important, right, Rich?
Exactly. I can't emphasize it enough. I have somebody I'm showing a home to tonight that thought he wasn't going to be able to buy until next year. And we took a closer look at things, and he's out looking to buy a home right now.
I love that. And I think, Xavier, there's also this concept that it's very small-minded. Like, I'm going to fix my credit just to get a home, or just to do this, or just to do that. But what do you see happen when somebody really takes the time to get their credit right, create a game plan, decide what debts they need to pay off, maybe get a business line of credit, all those doors opening? Discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, so you name a couple of the main ones, right? A lot of times when we get somebody's credit score up, depending on their debt, they can go ahead and now get approved for another loan with a lower interest rate and take care of that debt, saving them a ton of money in interest. Another thing is also a credit card. Sometimes you can get a higher limit credit card and then transfer that debt over to that credit card. And again, just focus on paying that because of lower interest rates. Now, the bigger play for us or for the average customer is basically turn around and help them establish a residual income, right? Just helping them OPM other people's money. So you have a credit score that's high enough. Now you can take a loan out for $5,000, $10 or up. And now we can go ahead and connect you with the right individuals where you want to invest. A lot of them are going to invest with the real estate, right? How do you get that first, not just your first home, but now how can we get that investment home that's going to create that residual income? And right now it's very popular with the short-term leasing, right? Your Airbnbs, or when the state needs help, they're going to go ahead and reach out to you. So we basically just get them a game plan on how we can leverage their credit for OPM, and then OPM will equal residual income for them.
And I think people have to understand too is that like when your buying power opens up room for capital, the real estate industry is like endless. Like I'm sure, Carl, you've seen over your history, and you can, talk about a specific story or anything you want to talk about, just what it's done for people to create passive income for their families.
Well, it's done a lot of things. One thing I want to mention, because I know Rich, I'm pretty sure, does the same thing I do, because people are short-sighted sometimes about the credit. They think, oh, this is going to cost money. It's going to take forever. You've already touched on that a little bit. But not only will they make money because they'll save money on the back end of it, but also when they come back to me to buy the home, I actually reimburse at closing their credit repair costs. So that's not costing them a darn thing at all.
Carl.
And they're making other money, and I believe Rich does the same thing. So there's ways to do that too. But to talk about some of the other stuff, I see stuff. We do some background checks on people for renting or other things, and we just recently helped one of our sellers sell to a person who they just had too many stuff going on. They have their own business. They couldn't get a loan because of all these debts supposedly. Long story short, he actually carried the loan back because their credit score was fine, but no lender wanted to touch it because of all their debts. But it was all because of the business. But you could see they were paying it pretty much off all the time too. So anyway, he was able to actually just finance the loan himself, and that was just based on the fact, again, the score was still pretty good. But it was a way, because of the background check and looking at it all, when I explained it to him, he was good with it.
Well, Rich, apparently Carl just takes care of credit repair costs, and now him and Xavier are going to work together. We're done, Rich.
Yeah,
the relationship has now been established, okay? So that's just is what it is. No, I really love being a catalyst and connector on this show. And for all of you listeners out there, a lot of these guests have not had relationships with each other prior to coming to the show. And so they sit down at this table. It's such a great learning curve for me and seeing all these things. And I have a lot of respect for people like Carl and Rich that are definitely my elders in this industry. And I love that concept. I'm definitely stealing that, Carl, 1,000%. So I'm transparently saying that on the radio. But if anyone wants to get a hold of you, throw out that number really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. 727-35-radio. Operators are standing by.
And Rich, throw out your number really quick.
Again, that's 813-502-9360.
And Xavier Marrero with Relentless Credit Builders, throw out those digits.
813-610-9296.
Unfortunately, we have to take a quick break. The segment was so good, I didn't want to stop. But segment 3, we're going to go over some zero money down options and how your credit affects multiple things in your life. We're going to pay some bills, and we'll be right back.
The biggest win, I think, with the dual path and having these two models is that now we become a brokerage for everyone. No matter where you are in your real estate career or what your goals are today, maybe today you're not interested in recruiting or having a team, but then one day you wake up and you are. Well, if you're at the wrong brokerage to do that, you're locked in. Where in our model, we're not holding anyone hostage. We're not tying anyone in. You can move between the different comp plans and have that success and really achieve whatever your definition of success is under one brokerage platform, being LPT.
Welcome back to the LPT All-Star Radio Show. I am your host, Betsy Tinervin, and we are having a fire morning this morning on this show. Again, we always bring you the raw and real of life, business, and of course, real estate. Today, friends, we are talking about credit being your foundation. That foundation block. Are you a credible person in life? Are you a credible person professionally? How does your credit resume affect you in the business world, in the real estate game? And I am very fortunate today to have two great guys in the studio. Carl Gresson, LPT Realty. He is from the Pinellas area, over 24 years of experience. And then my guy, Rich Gant, Back again, LPT Realty, over 23 years experience in the Tampa Bay area. Carl and Rich definitely could both be my dads, but Carl's already given me a lesson and I'm already stealing some of his gems. So it's not always just me giving you the goods, but these guys bring a lot of value to the show. Our special guest today, Xavier Marrero with Relentless Credit Builders. And as always, he is a reliable source for people looking to build their credit and for any agents looking to partner with someone to get people pre-qualified and get them into that first home. I would definitely reach out to him. So if you missed segments 1 and 2, you can visit our LPT All-Star Facebook page. Everyone should like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, but you can revisit all of our segments. We're going to pull really good clips and tips and tricks of our all-star agents that come on the show. So always, if you missed segment 1 and 2, definitely watch the replay. Segment 3, we really want to just talk about how credit affects you, how being credible affects you, what can happen in your business if you're not credible, and also the financing options that are available for you. We are going to discuss the Hometown Hero program. Rich and I discussed that a little bit downstairs. It's going to be open to everyone in July. Carl, did you know that?
I heard that, yes.
I wanted to teach you something.
Sorry. I did not know that. When is that?
Okay. So in July, for everyone out there, which is just a very cool program, right? So Hillsborough Bond Program only allows a certain number of funds and caps your income. So you may get $10,000 or $25,000, but you have income requirements. Hometown Heroes allows you more buying power. And then also you get $35,000 back. And that used to just be available to the firefighters and the EMTs. It's going to open up to everyone. Did you really know that, Carl, or not?
I heard that, as I said.
Oh, you heard?
Yes.
Okay.
Was not verified.
So I get a half a point.
You do.
Okay. So yes, it is verified. It is happening. So what I'm thinking is that we can kind of discuss a little bit the people that maybe they need like some credit help, reach out, get that started. Carl and now Rich and me apparently are all giving credit repair cash back at closing because we're following in your footsteps. But just kind of talk about what that's going to do for people and what that's going to do for their buying power.
Absolutely. I give away a free toaster too if you want to jump on that. But
I'm good on the toaster.
Well, no, it's a huge deal. Obviously, I mean, we hit, even without that program, there's other times people are always looking for some type of grants, all kinds of things going on. So it's great when you can tie into those incentives, especially something that's that credible. And that sort of thing. And again, I mentioned earlier, even the assumables to get lower rates too. So if you can tie a couple of these things even together sometimes, which sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, every program is different, but it's a huge deal and buyers love that and they'll gravitate towards it. And again, that's another thing about being credible when you know about those programs and can talk about those fluently.
And I think, Rich, just having the ability as agents, we are like the spoke in the wheel that holds all the transaction together. So when it comes to title, when it comes to lending, when it comes to credit repair, when it comes to the inspection, it's our job to vet out those resources and make sure that that wheel runs smooth. And sometimes we have to take a spoke off and replace it with someone else because now we have that situation. So how important is it to know your financing options?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I guess we're all now going to be heroes with that program. But I've had clients in the past go to a lender and no, you don't qualify. You don't qualify. I'm meaning for the Hometown Hero program. It just the lender didn't want all the extra paperwork and endeavor that's necessary to do that program. Whereas other lenders are, well, if it's going to get me business, yeah, I'll help you do that all day long.
And the same thing with the bond program. I mean, you do have to take a class and, Operation Hope and things like that. There's a class that's involved and there's a lot of paperwork. And I agree with you 100%. There are some lenders that are like, nope, I don't want those files. Now, when all the refis stopped, now you see all these people coming back around like, hey, oh no, I want the business now. So I think that that's just important. So Xavier, just kind of talk about that. Like we talked about how the credit affects the car insurance, the homeowner's insurance, but when it comes to all the other things and especially like real estate, knowing what it takes and what they need and how you kind of get them to that point.
Yeah, so first of all, having less than perfect credit is costing you $250,000 to $1 million in your lifetime. And that's going to be through your security deposits, your down payment, and your higher interest rates. So once we help you get to that goal, then obviously it's going to open up a lot more doors because a lot of these programs that are coming from the government do require you to have a certain credit score, right? So we will have a situation where a client would qualify for a lot of the programs based off of the background or their history, but their credit score is not going to, the credit score is going to stop them from actually reaching that goal. So we definitely want to help them reach that goal, so get their credit score up. And that way, any program that's out there, they're definitely going to be able to qualify for it. But the goal is definitely to save them money long term. That home insurance is going to play a big role, and their car insurance is going to play a big role as well.
And I also think people are a little confused. In the class the other day, you said that you thought a while back that if you had a 400 credit score and your girlfriend had a 400 credit score, that you had an 800 credit score.
That is correct. So, lack of knowledge, right? You don't know what you don't know. And I remember we sat down with one of the lenders, and they said, okay, well, we need to go ahead and get a credit score. And at that time, they was looking, I think, for like a 650 or close to a 700. And I said, that's fine. I have a 400 and she has a 400. So we're at 800 because we're doing the application together. And they're like, no, it definitely doesn't work that way.
So I think that, going back to that, Rich, it's like even like educating the people, and especially our first-time home buyers, maybe the people that during COVID lost their home, and they had something that where they had to sell it as a short sale, sell it as a foreclosure. Now we're back like wanting to buy. Why is that important to just educate them on the whole process?
Well, I think it's vitally important, even when it comes to the rent. Most landlords will check your credit score, and you're thinking, well, if my home is foreclosed on, that's going to ruin me. Well, if you're evicted from your rental, you're going to have an equal kind of problem in life. Most people with these programs, most people who are renting today could buy if they simply were aware of the programs that are out there.
I love that. I'm just being schooled all over the place here. But Carl, think about that honestly. Like when you go to sit down with someone, now the rental rates are just insane. We're an apex market. We always have been. Rents have always risen, as well as the cost of buying a home. And that was prior to a seller's market, just because Florida has that supply and demand, especially Tampa Bay. But think about someone that is going to rent for $2,500 and they have to pay first, last, and security deposit, what they're putting down.
Oh, no, it's totally insane. And I get those calls quite a bit, too, from people even out of state. Well, we might just rent. I'm like, well, let's talk about that. And we go through that. And I understand you don't know the area at all. Maybe you should rent first so you don't fall in the wrong place. But it makes almost zero sense if you can take that same monies and put it into the home and all that sort of thing. Even with the rates a little bit higher than they were, those things are going to end up adjusting. And again, I know I mentioned it just casually a couple of times, but we actually have one person right now applying to take over an assumable rate of 3.5%. Now it's a VA loan, and a lot of people don't realize this. You can actually take that VA loan, and a conventional buyer can still assume that. Everybody thinks, you can only have to be a VA buyer. That's not the case either. So there's a lot of things out there people just aren't aware of.
And I think what's really cool about what you're saying, and I really am in like the multifamily space, that's like the space that I came from, is when you can put a deal together and you're the deal maker, you're so far beyond a realtor. Seeing like the whole thing as big picture, not small picture, just makes people like you just amazing people to work with, because a lot of people wouldn't take the time to find out how that assumable loan could have been taken over, wouldn't have taken the time to like structure it. And I think it also, Rich, goes back to working with someone even like Xavier. So we have this client, this is what we're trying to do. Lender is saying, this is what we need. What do we do to get the deal done? So I love that. I love that. You guys are just teaching me things today. Carl, do you want to do segment 4 by yourself? You want to run segment 4?
Switch seats? Yeah.
So I love that. So if anyone out there is looking to buy or sell and wants an active marketing plan or a buyer's magazine with 7 home buyer strategies, as well as just a conversation with Rich or Carl. Carl, could you give everyone your phone number?
Yes, absolutely. Again, it's 727-35-RADIO. Call me anytime.
And Mr. Rich Gant, could you give your phone number?
Yeah, you can call or text 813-502-9360.
And if you are interested in the promo today, you can text credit to 813-610-9296. Correct, Xavier?
That is correct.
And we just appreciate all of you guys out there listening. I know that every single week you guys tune in, you send me messages and comments. We've had some people on the Facebook page really reach out. If you're a business owner that is just giving so much value to the Tampa Bay community and you would like to network with our LPT agents and appear on the show, you can text me at 813-609-0229. And again, what makes you credible? Why is credit such a foundation in your life, professionally and personally, and of course in the real estate game. We're going to do a couple advanced things to wrap up our show and talk about a little bit more advanced real estate transactions, and then also just like making life changes. If you need to rebuild your credit or your business, or you're kind of bouncing back in this inflation and everything we have going on, we want to discuss that with you. So do not miss segment 4. We're going to pay some bills and we'll catch you after the break. Welcome back to the LPT All-Star Radio Show. I am your host, Betsy Tinervin. Happy to be here with you guys today. Of course, we are in the Sunshine State. I'm with the Sunshine State Investments team. We are powered by LPT Realty. We want to thank Robert Palmer and the executive team for making this show possible. We've had a great show today. We always bring you the raw and real of life, business, and of course, real estate. Today, we've been talking about your credit just being your foundation. We walked you through just kind of what makes these two agents credible in the industry and why it's important to work with a credible realtor. What is credit and what is your credit resume and how it impacts you personally and professionally? We gave you some zero money down options and some grants and some great things that can get you into a home. And we walked you through some really great deals that Rich and Carl have both done, and just that they're seasoned agents in the industry. We're going to wrap the show today talking about rebuilding. So we get the people out there that have a perfect credit score and they have some buying power, but what about the other guys? What about the guys that need to rebuild? Even in life, I think we have such a great seasoned show today with veterans on here in the real estate industry that have seen the ups and downs and they've had to rebuild in their career. And so they're going to give all entrepreneurs some insight on that. So whether you are starting a business or you are starting over, we want to discuss rebuilding. So I really do want to turn to you, Carl, first. I think what makes this show really cool for me is I love being a student of the game. And so since you could be my dad, and Rich started in 1978.
We don't know your mother.
So I really just want to hear from you. Like, you have probably had to rebuild, re-strategize, and change in the real estate game over and over and over again. And even watching, it weed out a lot of the amateurs. But I just want to hear from you, like, how you did that, and especially in moments that was really tough. How did you stay in the game, and what did you do to rebuild and start over?
Well, yeah, the market's always changing, right? I mean, obviously the biggest change we saw was with 07, 08, 09, all that sort of thing, when the market just kind of blew up and overnight nobody could get financing. Properties had gone up like a rocket. Well, then they dropped like a rocket. That's when we were doing all the short sales. So that was probably the biggest reinvention, although there's always reinvention going on with technology and all the other things that we got to pay attention to. But we went from helping a lot of great people buy and sell properties to helping a whole bunch of really nice people avoid foreclosure. So we became like kind of the big short sale people. 80% of our business back then was short sales. A lot of people didn't want to delve into them because of all the work. At one time, we had 109 files. It was absolutely insane, but we helped a lot of people get out of foreclosure versus having that now in their credit for 7 years and really ruin their life and get the balances waived. So that was a big deal, and I'm still very proud of that, even though it was a hectic time.
And then, Rich, you've earned your gray hairs and stripes as well. So just over your career in the last 20 years, watching real estate kind of go up and down, and real estate really doesn't fluctuate as much as, the mortgage industry does. But just pivotal times or moments in your career where you had to just really like dig deep, grind it out, rebuild, stay in the game. What was that like? Well,
I was a licensed builder back in the early 80s. Interest rate hit 18.63%. And I prophetically declared we'd never see it under 10 ever again. So I've seen a lot of adjustments in life, and you just need to be in the right place at the right time. That's why I'm so grateful to be with LPT. It is an amazing thing as a realtor to have the product, the promotional, all the things. That it's literally the first time in all my years of real estate that I'm like, I understand why I'm paying Mr. Palmer all this money. It is better than I could do if I were on my own. I gladly give the money to LPT that makes all of this happen. And the marketing packages and the magazines that you've mentioned and so forth are so phenomenal compared to anything I've ever seen that's the biggest shift that I've actually seen in all the years I've been in real estate.
And so, Xavier, I'm definitely going to turn to you. I think that it was very cool this past weekend. You know, you spoke at the Innovation Summit. Jennifer Spinelli, we always have to give her a little shout out. She is my partner with the Sunshine State Investments team, and she spoke as well. And a lot of like things that you guys spoke about was just rebuilding. And in the credit industry, you see this consistently. Things happen in people's life that they can't control, and this happens. So just talk about like what rebuilding like means to you and like what second chance means to you.
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of just want to touch on this real quick. When it comes to credit and rebuilding, I think the biggest factor or the biggest piece that's stopping someone is basically fear. So I just want all the listeners to know, let go of the fear and just take action. Just go and execute, right? But for me, I'll tell you my personal story. I remember that at one point, we was doing very well. I was with a company at the time. I was a senior vice president for that company for 5 years. So I was definitely making the 7 figures a year income-wise. And so my credit was definitely at the 800 credit score just because everything was being paid on time. But it's funny how the tables can turn from night to day. I know what the company was doing wasn't right for the customer and didn't let me go to sleep at night. I remember even having a conversation with my pastor about it, to the point that I walked away from that 7-figure position after 5 years. And a lot of people thought I was crazy because of the lifestyle that I created. 7 figures a year would definitely help a lot of people in your family live a certain lifestyle. But I knew we wasn't doing the right thing. Long story short, after almost a year and a half of struggling and really finding out what was the best thing for the customer. So for myself, I had to rebuild as a person. I had to rebuild as a businessman because now I had to go look for the software, for the right developers, for the right reasoning and instructions, everything that I had to do to create the software we have today to give my customers the best results, knowing that I was actually doing the right thing for them. So to me, it took a lot mentally, so spiritually, even physically and financially. It's like I took a big hit. But today I have to say I'm very happy that I had to rebuild, because I had to rebuild my own credit. Shout out, I just had $24,000 removed from my American Express Platinum. And, I even had an eviction from my penthouse that I had that removed as well. So I had to rebuild. So I tell people, don't be ashamed of having something and losing it, because if you got it once, you can get it again. And that's including your credit score.
I love that. I didn't know how transparent we were going to be on the show today, but good job. I love that. And I think there are times, I think that what makes LPT great, and the people, I've not had really anyone on this show who hasn't had like a transparent conversation. I feel like we all kind of ended up here for a reason. So, Carl, anything else you want to talk about just rebuilding? I know that you have kids and you've been in this industry a long time, and rebuilding is real in our life. And I do agree with like taking action and taking that first step. But I know that everyone that went through COVID and now gas prices and inflation and all these things, sometimes people just feel like, where do I start? And especially buying real estate, it's scary.
Well, it really is. And you're right. We rebuild everywhere, right? We rebuild in our family. We rebuild our credits. We rebuild our lives. We rebuild our business. We're constantly doing that. I know from a business standpoint, we're always looking at what we can do to innovate and rebuild and do things. In the house, I just want the kids to have ears half the time, and it's crazy.
Amen to that.
But we rebuilt the family. All 3 of our kids are adopted. They all came in a unique situation. So there's stuff like that. We just got to keep plugging away and do what's right. And I agree with you. You mentioned you even talking to your pastor. It's awesome. If you can do the right things, the path will open up and everything will work out for you. But sometimes it's tough to do that. So.
Well, what a really great story. 3 adopted children, helping them rebuild. I think that speaks volumes in itself just about who you are as a person. I also think, Rich, I wanted to turn to you as well. I think that, hearing when the interest rates were high and all of those things, my dad was a realtor with Century 21, and real estate gave him a second chance in life, and now he owns 4,000 apartment units, and he started with 2 single family homes, but he left rehab with a document that said highly unlikely to succeed. And so I think that in everything we're saying on the show, like there are moments where people feel shot down, but give them just a sense of motivation of why they need to keep going.
Absolutely. I don't have a whole lot of horror stories in my life. I'm grateful for the way God's blessed me, but I've seen numbers of people like we're talking 6%, 6.5% right now. Even if you don't want to buy a home, there are people carrying tens of thousands of dollars at 20+% on their credit cards.
Yes.
And they have a couple $100,000 in equity in their home. It makes no sense to me that they continue to pay that interest when they could start with a clean slate within 30 days.
Well, I love that advice, and I have loved having all of you guys here. You guys are so good that unfortunately we have run out of time. So, Mr. Carl, if someone wants to connect with you, could you please give them your phone number?
Yes, absolutely. Again, it's 727-35-radio. We do have people standing by waiting.
And Mr. Rich Gant, could you give everyone your phone number?
Again, that's 813-502-9360.
And Xavier Marrero, Relentless Credit Builders.
813-610-9296.
And they need to text credit.
And you can call or text credit.
Perfect. I've loved having all of you guys on the show today. Thank you for being here.
Thanks,
you, Betsy.
Thank you.
I hope that you guys had a good time. Will you promise to come back?
Absolutely. I'll be here tomorrow.
There you go.
Well, next Tuesday. I love this show. I love all of our listeners out there. What a great show on just rebuild and credit and foundation. If you missed any of today's shows, you can visit the LPT All-Star Radio Show Facebook page. Until next time, friends, we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Raw and Real of Real Estate podcast, powered by LPT Realty, Real Estate Reimagined. We hope this episode motivated and inspired you. And don't forget to rate and review us. Thanks again for listening to the Raw and Real of Real Estate podcast with Betsy Tinnervin.